lounging, son.
Fucking running nose. All right, welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name's Ryan,
And I'm Manny.
and we're back talking New Mutants by Rob Liefeld. We are getting close to the end here, and it's very timely that we're doing this. As of the time of this recording, Rob has recently announced that he is going to be retiring from the character. And what does that mean? That means he's not going to be doing covers. He's not going to be doing interior pages. He's got one final Deadpool story that he's going to bring to the world. And that's it. From what I know, I don't know that that necessarily means he's retiring from comics, but I know that he's been talking about it on his podcast where, he is getting older. He kind of wants to go, I don't want to say go out on top necessarily, but go out while he's still happy with the quality of work he's putting out. So that's why he wants to do like this final Deadpool story while he's kind of in his prime artistically, right? Obviously, you see this issue 97. I was telling Manny before that I wish I would have realized when we did our last episode, we did 95 and 96, both Extinction Agenda crossovers. Both of them were drawn by Liefeld, but we didn't include 97. We should have, because we're not flipping through this today. This is not art by Liefeld. This is by Wong Yap. And really the only reason we're showing this off is simply for the completionist mindset that I have, where I don't want to just skip an issue and not at least mention it. And look at that cover.
Plus, the cover's dope.
The cover is yeah. I didn't want to not show this cover because this cover is fucking sick.
Yeah, dude, I remember seeing this on the newsstand and I was already, on board with Cable and everything going on in New Mutants, but I remember seeing this specific image and just like how fucking big Cable looks on this cover, I was like, fuck yeah. Little young Manny was like just so into this, it's not even funny. I remember what it felt like to buy this at 7-Eleven.
I don't know if it's that I miss those days buying comics or I just miss being, that age. No problem.
Exactly.
No adult problems. Just being
no
able to
adulting,
just going into the fucking 7-Eleven, not knowing what to expect. Like there was a certain there was more of it was like a different energy when we were kids because there's no fucking internet spoiling anything. You never knew when a book was coming out. There was no, you could, I guess, if they did have I think at this point the Diamond catalog existed, right? There was other catalogs that would tell you from the other distributors when books are coming out, but for the most part, when I was that age, I just went in and was like, what do they got? It wasn't I need this issue. It wasn't until I hit a comic book store that happened. But
same,
great cover.
I would hit different drugstores to get it, but mostly, you didn't know what you were gonna get.
Like I said, that was a great cover, but this is the money issue right here.
Yeah,
I had the option graded or raw when I was gonna replace my copy. I had to go with the raw. I wanted to be able to flip through this fucking comic book.
Yeah, man.
It's great. I've read this fucking comic book so many times, whether it's been in the single issue or my original copy that I had that I sold, the facsimile, this edition, the trades.
It's one of my iconic comics to me. Like you said, I read it countless times. Like I remember this issue being passed around amongst my friends in school. Like holy shit, we would pour over the pages. We would copy Deadpool, draw Deadpool in our notebooks out of this. Like this was like a game changer, man.
It's one of the most iconic covers, I'll say my lifetime. I won't say maybe necessarily history of comic books, but if I go, there's just so many iconic covers, if you go from my lifetime and my 37 years on this fucking planet, to me, this is probably the most iconic. I think especially of the characters created in my lifetime, I think Deadpool's the biggest. And I feel very comfortable saying that. In the last 37 years, Deadpool is the biggest character to come out of Marvel or DC. I don't think there's a bigger character that's been introduced.
I would agree with that. There's obviously, great big characters like Venom and you got Spawn, like all these characters that were created in my lifetime. But as far as having an effect on pop culture, hands down, it's got to be Deadpool.
Yeah, I guess Venom would be to me next, but I think overall, because all right, I was one when Venom was created, so that's in all fairness, for me, the experience, right? And I think what's interesting about Deadpool, the difference between Venom and Deadpool, I think is Deadpool wasn't necessarily the main like focus, right? Like this wasn't just introducing Deadpool. This was introducing a character called Gideon and a character called Domino. And then he blew up. And
Yeah.
he blew up instantly. Like Venom was not like I don't think I don't want to again I wasn't around, but I don't think it was like the excitement was necessarily the same when Venom first introduced, and then he even took a huge change visually when Eric Larson drew him with that tongue. And I love Venom, but I mean, dude, if you took a poll with I mean I'll call them the normies, right? Maybe the non like comic book nerds like you and myself. What do people know more, right? I would say Deadpool. Deadpool is
Yeah.
a bigger pop culture character. I mean, look what his
Yeah.
movie did, right? Compared to Venom. And Deadpool's a better character. I don't know. I like Venom, but
No, I totally agree with that statement that Deadpool is probably, I mean, Deadpool has had the most repercussions on pop culture of any comic character created in my lifetime, you know?
yeah. And then why else? And then another thing to call out too is there's a difference. Venom, I would say, is really like the brainchild of two. Like Deadpool's all Rob.
Three, if you toss in what you said earlier about Eric Larson and the tongue, so you've had many hands,
Yeah.
which I mean, you have had with Deadpool too. There are creators that came later that added to it, but like the core and essence of Deadpool to me has always been there from the beginning, and this is where it all started. So,
Yes, it from this first appearance. It's all
yeah,
here. Like I know that people, call out like the Joe Kelly run stuff like that, but like no, Rob created this character and Fabian Nicieza scripted the book. Like this is
yeah,
this is a Rob Liefeld creation. I love
yeah,
the opening too with Gideon. I don't know
yes.
whenever you see this like grin on the Liefeld character, I don't know, I fucking really dig it.
I love it. Yeah, I call it like the Liefeld grimace. You know, like
Yeah,
it's very distinct. It's very like identifiable, and just the hatching on this image is fantastic. You know, like
yeah.
great design on Gideon, man. Like
Uh-huh. And then you get the flip double page.
the flip. Yep.
So good. And this is the first issue also. So we met, we didn't talk about it, but Louise Simonson's last issue was issue 97. Was the last
Yeah.
Extinction Agenda crossover issue. And then Rob goes fucking full-blown plot and art, right? Like
Yeah.
this is all him. Fabian is scripting over, Rob's ideas, but love this, dude. I love this. And it's crazy because like, you introduce three characters. Gideon opens up this issue and he's the least popular of all the characters. He's the one that had the least impact over time.
Yes.
Looking back over, like what this is 33 years later. So it's just interesting to see like who became popular, who the fans connected with. I mean, I think visually Deadpool's the best looking, obviously.
Yes, by far. I mean, they're all cool, but
yeah.
they all look amazing on the cover, but Deadpool is just the most visually arresting, like the slickest one. Like he's the Boba Fett, which is something I think Rob has said on his
I know.
podcast.
I've been loving that, dude. I love when he calls people out, dude. I love when he calls people out because so many people like go back and then they try to like it's revisionist history. It's where
Yeah,
people, and then most of the time, and I feel comfortable saying this. I like that you and I have talked about this. Where like some of these people that throw their comments out, they weren't even fucking alive.
yeah,
They weren't even experiencing these comics in real time. Now, I'll be honest, right? Like I didn't pick this up off this. You and I have an age difference, so you were picking these New Mutants up, whereas I
yeah,
had to go back and read them. Now I went back and read them at just a couple years later after they were released, but I still was experiencing the hype of Liefeld, in
yeah,
his prime. So you see these people coming back and just like for lack of a better way of saying it, running their mouth about stuff they don't know. And I
yeah,
find it comical. And I think that this is like, to me, this is prime Liefeld. I know Youngblood, I think he's great on that. I think Youngblood 6 is like one of his best issues. But this is like him just like, they unleashed him by letting him do his plot and stuff. And this is
yes,
where at
yeah,
least, we're seeing the beginnings of what's going to lead to X-Force. I love this right here too, where he's crossing through 3 panels because he's overlapping all of it. And then he's got his own connection with Emmanuel DaCosta, which is Roberto's, Sunspot's dad.
Yes, yeah. You get the feeling that Gideon is like a very international businessman kind of guy, almost like a Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, I love this dude. Fucking tank, dude.
Yeah, dude, I love it. I love a Cannonball, the way the way he's like the way Rob draws like the fire trail of Cannonball is great. This
Hmm.
whole layout is fantastic.
Dude, this is what I love about his art, you know? I love how dynamic each shot is. And just like how you follow through, right? Like you see it up here and then you jump down to the fire, like you said, the fire trail of I love the close up, the far away, and then the close up that he always tends to go to. And knowing how Rob draws too, how he draws tiny and then blows it up. He loves doing that kind of stuff, too. And
It,
it
it
just
makes these little tiny figures cooler.
yeah, and then you just keep getting closer and closer to Cable, and then you get this right here. I love that. And
Yeah,
this is really like, we're starting to see more of how he's kind of like treating them like an army and less of like, not the family kind of dynamic that New Mutants was always known for. And it just keeps, to me, it's like each issue tends to kind of lean more into that we're soldiers, instead of like just like family members or teammates, right?
yeah. Even in like the vocabulary that Kid was using, and it's funny because you're starting to see Cannonball kind of take on that mentality too. You could see like that Cable's already having an influence on these kids.
And he's like, he's trying to teach them, how to tone down your field so that when you're coming up, you don't make noise. And then he's like, I don't know if you noticed, but there's not much of a team left around here. And he says it. Look, if life were a picnic, you'd be a family. Since life is war, you're soldiers. You do well to start accepting that fact.
I remember this sequence as a kid. To me, like, is ingrained in my head. Like, I don't know what it was about it, but I just loved it. Like, I think it
Yeah.
was a combination of the coloring and like the way that Rob draws like the expression on Roberto's dad's like face when he's having the heart attack. Like, and I love like the coloring on the last panel there with like the girl standing in the game. You and I talk a lot about magenta and like
Hmm.
how it's underused and it was so prevalent in the 90s. And I mean, you see a lot of it here again.
Yeah. You know what I noticed too on this one is when I looked at her face here, it kind of reminded me of like an Art Adams face. And then up top here, when he's pouring what is it, coffee? He's
Yes.
drinking the coffee or whatever. Also kind of looks a little bit like Art Adams, the way the mouth is drawn. And he talks about how influential Art Adams is, and I don't know when, going back and looking at it, it just like it kind of stood out to me. We get Boom Boom here, Richter.
The Bart Simpson poster in the background there.
Yeah, I love it. I know because Simpsons was like, I mean, the popularity at this moment in
Yeah.
time was just like, I think at an all-time high.
And it's clever how it's different enough and you have Richter in the way so there's those no copyright issues, like
Yeah, like it
that
is, but you can also get away with like, what are you talking about? That's not.
great Easter egg on Rob's part. And
But
then
yeah,
here we go.
I love the dynamic between them and like there's always like I don't want to say animosity, but there's always this constant like arguing with them because they are teenagers. I mean,
Especially Boom Boom and Richter.
yeah, he's so angry, because he's like, we left Rain in Genosha, she's family, and again, like he doesn't look at him like that, and it's weird. It's so weird. Like he just looks at them like soldiers and like almost that they're expendable. And I don't want to say he doesn't care about them, but like he worries more about the mission than anything.
Right, yeah. He's all about the end result, and he
Yeah.
he may care for these kids and want them to be as ready as possible, but he also understands that a soldier may in fact die in the war.
Yeah.
Like
And he
so
doesn't, and Richter doesn't care. He's like, I'm gonna go without asking permission. And then we get to the library, we see Cable, all of a sudden an explosion, and we get the introduction of none
still for my
other.
money, one of the best Deadpool drawings ever is that first one.
Oh, I agree. I love it, dude.
Yeah.
When I was reading it again, I'm like, this has got to be the thumbnail I put for the video right here. This
Yeah.
pin.
Yeah. It's great, man. And like the pose is great, like you got Deadpool like, looking really slick. I love the word balloons on him, how like they're colored again with like that magenta coloring.
I
And
know it's crazy because
again,
from the beginning they always kind of like I think now he has yellow word balloons, right? I think is what they do for Deadpool. I mean, they've always toyed with the way his dialogue and like his word balloons were for the most part. So it's funny to see like even here, like what was the decision to make it with this magenta around?
And his costumes changed over the years. Like the black around his eyes has kind of gotten smaller, but I love this original design so much.
Yes, I like the big black circles on his face with like the tiny white slits for the eyes. I think it's
Yeah.
so. And I always have never liked that little like whatever that little shit is they put at the top of his mask. Like it looks like a little fucking like tail almost.
Yeah.
I've never liked when they started adding that into his costume, dude, because some people would draw it, it would look so ridiculous, dude.
And see,
But
Deadpool's already a motor mouth at this point. I mean, he's not breaking the fourth wall or anything yet. He's definitely throwing out the quips, and that like sort of like annoying attitude that he has is already present
oh
in the
yeah, dude,
character.
the personality's here, man. For
Yeah.
sure. I mean, and then we get the callback with Mr. Tolliver, which, like that'll be played out over years with
Mm-hmm.
Deadpool, and it ties into his like I think it's the first Deadpool miniseries or maybe the second one. Can't really remember, but it's Tolliver plays a huge part in his whole backstory. I love this Arrivederci, Nathan. Is he about to shoot him? This is so good. Like this is the meeting between these two characters who still to this day have like it's a strained relationship, but like they're tied together. Like there's been Cable Deadpool miniseries, there's been countless team ups between them, whether it's a team up that Cable wanted or not, they've teamed up. And I love how we get him Cannonball coming in and using that like way of like muffling his blast field so he's quiet, and we see him sneaking up in the background and then knocking Deadpool down.
This is a great page. I love like the speed of the cable punching Deadpool. Like you got like the speed line in the back, like very manga esque.
I
This
like
this
this
page is
thing.
very very manga.
I know, and I like this thing that he just like throws a cannonball that just constricts and then ties up over him. It's crazy
This
too because
whole
Deadpool gets
fight is
take
awesome.
yeah, he gets taken down pretty fucking quick, which I mean it makes sense. He is outnumbered. And at this point, we don't know anything about Deadpool. We don't know what his powers are. We don't know that he can heal, right? We don't know that he's part of the Weapon Plus. He literally like just bursts onto the scene. To me, it's like there's so much of the core of who he is, though, personality wise.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's all here,
The
dude.
constant talking during fights. He's literally saying something every time he's
Yeah.
fighting, and
He's
that's
smart
something that.
ass.
Yeah, yeah. And even Cable says you talk too much. There's a time right there. Something that's going to be said to Deadpool to this day.
Yeah. I love how he throws that fucking knife, the whip and the thunk right in Cable's leg. And he's like, geez, I'm sorry, that must have really hurt. Let me put you out of my misery. And then here come the rest of the New Mutants crew.
I love that bottom panel with the thunk, thunk, thunk.
No,
And then
this
we get
is
the other
fucking great.
character. Yeah.
Yeah, then we get Domino coming in.
Again, Domino very Arthur Adams in the face.
I know, and it's funny too, because like you see like Cable smile. I can't remember if we've seen him smile in this since he's been introduced or not. I mean, maybe he has, but like you can see that already, like there's this backstory between them that's alluded to, right? And he even says just in time as usual, Deadpool's taken down. How's this new babysitting business of yours going? She says.
Yeah. I mean, Sunspot even mentions that Cable's actually smiling.
Yeah.
So you're on the money with like again Rob drawing that, making it very obvious that something's. He's very happy to see Domino.
Yeah. I mean, look, and then what's weird is like his Deadpool's word balloons changed back to normal here.
And yeah, you know what? I didn't notice that.
Yeah. But look, he gets to, like I said, he's only in a few pages and it's only in the back end, and Domino's only in a couple pages, right? And she's like,
Yeah.
but again, like instantly, like you want to know more. I can't
Yeah.
imagine like experiencing this in real time, not having like the years in between that I had when I went back and finally read this issue. So cool. And then the mystery with Domino.
And I don't believe we see Deadpool again until X-Force #2.
Right. And as Rob has said, his plan was to have him in later, but Marvel was like, no, you need to bring him in sooner. Because the popularity, like, once they started seeing the numbers, right, from New Mutants 98 and the fan reaction, the letters they wrote in, and now we're seeing what Cable wants to do basically with his team.
I like that he mailed Deadpool back to Tolliver with Federal Express. It's
So
great.
funny, dude. Yeah, I love it, dude. So good. And Domino's like not much to work with when they're going over who they're gonna basically recruit for this team. They're not gonna use Karma. They're not gonna use Danny Moonstar. They're not gonna use Magma. Skids, which I still think is a horrible fucking name, by the way.
Yeah.
And then Rusty Collins, what's he gonna do? And that will be, followed up in the next issue. We get a letter from Rick to, Tabitha, aka Boom Boom, and he's gonna go after Rain.
And then we get Gideon visiting Roberto and telling him his father's dead.
Yeah.
Already starting his manipulation of Roberto.
So good, dude. This is such a
Yeah.
good issue. I'm so
And I
glad.
remember where all that goes. Now we're gonna start seeing like the externals, like the immortal mutants, and like Gideon's whole story involving that. So many things that Rob had planned for all these characters are being laid in these last 3 issues.
Yeah. It's always fun going back through this. I'm glad that we went through it again because it's always fun talking about it with somebody else. But
Yeah.
it's also really it's cool to talk about it at this moment in time. And it's funny that we kind of dragged out when we were recording because we recorded the last ones like a little while ago, right? Like we've been
Yes.
sitting on that video, and then so for it to happen in this time where now Rob has retired, I think it's a good thing that we waited, because it is cool
Yes.
to look back with that context of him, retiring from the character and, kind of looking back on it makes me think like, what would we have got if Rob had stayed at Marvel, right? Like in a parallel universe, Rob doesn't do Image, Rob stays at Marvel, continues to work with his characters. What else would we have got? What would have
Yeah.
How would the characters be different, right? Like how would they have grown differently? So kind of cool to look back and I love this comic. It's one of my favorite comics of all time. So yeah,
Same. 100%.
obviously I usually say go pick it up. It's not cheap. So if you want to have it in single issue form, your best bet's probably to pick up one of those facsimile editions that they constantly put out. They're constantly
Yeah.
but so much fun. It's easy to find in collections. I know they just did a New Mutants Omnibus. You get the Deadpool classics. There's plenty of ways to read this, but I definitely recommend picking it up in some way, shape, or form. And make sure you check out the Liefeld playlist that we have, all the New Mutants episodes. There's a bunch of other Liefeld centric stuff. And like, follow, subscribe, hit that bell icon to be notified every time a new vid drops. And on that note, we're out.